Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I am going to be talking to Renee Jean. Welcome, Renee Jean. Super excited to have you.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And first, where are you visiting us from? I'm being nosy now.
I'm actually from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nice. I got married in Vegas.
Oh, yay. Congratulations.
But like out in the desert. We didn't do like a Elvis thing. No. Like we went out in the desert. It was very pretty. It's actually my 9-year anniversary this Sunday.
Oh, congratulations.
By the time this episode airs, that'll be like months ago or whatever. But for you, it's this coming Sunday.
Yes, almost there.
So just tell us a little bit about who Renee is.
ADD. I do all sorts of stuff. I write, I cycle. I'm actually training for a charity cycle event right now. Casino dealer, which I do write about as well. I always joke that that's my therapy because being a casino dealer is so random. There's always so much going on that you always have to look at the people next to you and go, you saw that, right? And you laugh all day, and it's good therapy, even though, I mean, like any job, it has its stresses, but it's good for just daily laughs. So
that's good.
Love the outdoors, camping, hiking, cycling, obviously. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. My favorite color is purple, and I just want to say I like your shirt. It's purple. I gravitate to purple dresses, and then my husband's always like, you've got like 5 purple dresses. You want to maybe get a different color? And I'm like, oh, no.
My deepest obsession on earth for the most part seems to be the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm a diehard hockey girl, have been since I was a little kid. So I'm not one of those, I just got it when we got our team 4 years ago. Been following the sport my whole life. Played hockey, everything.
Really? Oh, wow.
We don't have a man cave in the house. We have a Golden Knights house, and that's mostly my fault.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm incapable of going anywhere near a store that sells anything Vegas Golden Knights and not coming home with at least probably 8 things.
That's so funny. I find it funnier. So I'm in Canada, and Canadians are expected to like hockey. I hate hockey. I hate it a lot.
Again, it's a therapy thing. I, as a kid, had, I think, some undiagnosed aggression issues. I was very tall. I was very lanky. I was very awkward. And the ability to just go, kind of shoulder bump some other kid who was a little bigger than me or seemed a little tougher than me and take the puck away and go score, just it was a good release. So
yeah, I can see that.
It was a good release. It was good. And my dad loved hockey, so it was a good bonding thing for us.
That's good. Yeah. It's just funny because, being in Vegas compared to, I'm in Canada, the expectation.
Oh, yeah. Total opposite.
Yeah.
But it was also our first professional team, so the whole city went, oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's true. There you go. Yeah, I'm really close to Toronto for the most part, so I'm supposed to like the Maple Leafs.
I was going to say that they're part of the original 6, which is what I grew up being a fan of. So,
oh, there you go.
Red Wings, Blackhawks, Maple Leafs, Canadians, Bruins, and Rangers. My dad kind of followed them all, mostly the Red Wings because we grew up in Michigan. But
okay, I didn't even know that it started with only 6 because that's how much I am disinterested in hockey. So.
Oh, I have a banner that has the original logos for the whole 6 teams hanging in my office.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Die hard.
Well, this is probably the longest I've ever talked about hockey, so moving on.
There you go.
Tell us about your mental health struggle and just start wherever it is that you feel you want to start.
At 13, and I know super young, but I started, I knew junior high school, you always have those little, I like you too, you're my boyfriend. Okay, 2 weeks later, okay, I don't like you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 13, I met a guy, and it was one of those like teen all-night parties where they obviously try to keep kids from doing drugs and doing stupid things outside, so they bring everybody in and we'll order pizza and we'll have the pool party, and it's one of those like rec center things. And there was this guy who was so cool and everybody was watching him. He was jumping off the diving board, catching a little football, and I wanted to impress him. And well, I didn't impress him because I slipped off the edge of the diving board and bashed the back of my head and pretty much the back of my body on the diving board. But he actually rescued me and spent the whole night making sure I was okay. And I thought he was like the sweetest guy in the world. And a few months later, after we started dating, he started becoming very manipulative, very controlling. 3 years into the relationship before it finally ended, and it ended with a very physical and psychologically abusive relationship that later I was diagnosed with PTSD because of. He was extremely abusive and controlling. And
he the same age, like 13, 14?
2 years older than me. I was 13.
Not that makes it better or worse. I was just
no, yeah, he was 15. I was 13 at the time when we met. 16 and 18 when we broke up, and it was rough. And the weird thing is, it took years to even understand what happened because I was so young.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult, and then it had a lot of lasting effects that I'm still dealing with.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good topic to talk about because young people don't realize a lot of times when they're being manipulated, when things are not as they seem to be. And at that age, you really don't have a lot of life experience. I mean, I remember being 13, 14, and I knew everything about everything. And now I have a 14-year-old and he knows everything about everything. But the fact of the matter is, you don't.
No, you don't. And it's the time that you're forming. You're coming to understand things. And so that almost becomes a condition, a part of who you are and how you understand the world. And so because you know everything, but you're kind of knowing everything while learning and being developed in this conditioned way, it carries on and it goes with you. And that becomes a hard habit to break, especially when you don't realize it.
Yeah, exactly. So what were some of the signs that you finally came to realize were not good things?
Well, by the time it became too hard to hide, because I'm very clumsy. I mean, between playing sports and the fact that I am naturally clumsy, I have bruises always.
Yeah.
And when I say, oh, I walked into a door, I probably walked into a door. Like,
yeah.
I walked into the wall yesterday just because I was busy and animated and talking to one of my coworkers as we were going down the hall, and I forgot that the wall turned, and I walked right into it.
Yeah.
I don't have a bruise from that, but it's happened.
Yeah.
So the fact that I played sports and the fact that, there was always a time where I had a bruise and people go, how did you get that? And it could have easily been, I got hit by a soccer ball or I bumped into the railing, but half the time it was, he slammed my hand in the door of the car.
Oh.
Wow. So there were a lot of times that it got to the point where I couldn't hide the bruises. I couldn't, and people would know that we had hung out together and people started asking stuff. And then, I mean, it really honestly came to a head. We got into a huge, huge fight and he pulled a knife on me. And that was our breakup fight.
That's a very young age for that severity of abuse to, like, first off, for you to take, but for him to inflict. Makes me wonder, and again, this doesn't make his actions okay, but it makes me wonder where he got those ideas from.
Years later, I was able to kind of go back and analyze that, and it's his parents. I remember being around the family, and to be fair, I'm not sure how his younger brother came out as seemingly normal as he did, because his parents were awful to each other, to their kids, to everyone around. They screamed at each other constantly. They berated their kids in front of other people. I think and like you said, it's not excusing what he did to me and I'm sure other people that he dated, but it's what he saw. That was his normal. Yeah. And so that's how he was formed, and then that's how he acted.
Yeah. And that's a really good point to put out there to people, is that we aren't born, I shouldn't say that, there are some people that are pretty twisted. My kid loves watching true crimes. I do too. So I mean, there's some twisted out there. But majority of the time, we're not born going, it'd be a great idea if I got a boyfriend or girlfriend and I just beat the shit out of them, right? Like that's not generally what happens. Usually it's like, say, as we're growing, we're forming and we're seeing our parents, we emulate our parents because that's what we know. Right. So if the normal in your house is yelling or one parent hitting the other parent, whatever that is, you think that's normal. And so when you're in a relationship, you usually don't even think that you're doing something wrong until it's pointed out. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that the abuser goes, oh yeah, I am wrong, and goes and gets help. Yeah, but they don't even realize a lot of times that it is wrong because that's how they grew up. That's their normal.
It's what they see. It's what to them is normal. Okay, the man's supposed to be in charge, and if the woman doesn't behave, or vice versa, it happens. Yeah. And that's one thing a lot of people, they automatically associate this big tough man beating up on this weak little woman. I've seen so many instances where that's not the case. It's not necessarily, the guy's being weak. He's not being weak. A lot of times, especially when women are the abusers, it's psychological manipulation, which unfortunately lasts longer. Yeah. That psychological abuse can stay with you and cut that scar inside that you can't even show off and be like, look, they hit me. Yeah. It's not about that. And it lasts so much longer. It's so much harder to get over.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different forms of abuse. So like you said, psychological, you've talked about the physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's financial abuse. Like if one partner has full control of the money and the other partner can't do anything with it, that is a form of abuse as well, because they're being controlling. I know there's other ones, but off the top of my head, I'm just kind of like, I can't think of them. So if you can think of them.
There's definitely sexual abuse, which has been big in media in the last several years. But all sorts of anything that's controlling, anything that completely restricts your other half or your other people involved. It's a form of abuse. Even if you think you're doing it for the right reasons. I'm doing this to help them. If I let them have control of the money, then they'll just go crazy and we'll be broke all the time.
Yeah.
Completely restricting them is still abusive. It's not necessarily a bad thing to make sure that they're limited, but work on a budget together, work on a way to control that together, do something.
Communication.
Yes, exactly. One person stepping up and saying, I'm in charge, I'm in control, I make all the rules, is a recipe for disaster.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times that can lead to, you can't talk to certain people, can't talk to your family, and then the victim becomes isolated, and now the only person they have is their abuser. So how do you leave that when you don't even have friends and family anymore?
Yeah, it's that slippery slope. Is even if the person, like I said, is trying to do it for what they believe is a good intention, a good reason to do it, it just becomes this horrible situation, and it's baby steps, and that's why no one sees it. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you see it coming? Because you don't. You really don't. It's not, unless somebody walks up and just punches you in the face in a bar.
Yeah.
Coming.
Generally, you won't start dating them if they do that.
Yeah, usually not. That's usually like post breakup, and now we're gonna have to file charges. I mean, that's a bad situation anyway, but it's a whole different situation.
Exactly. So even in your situation, we don't know a lot of it yet. We've only explored a little bit of it, but you said that first time that you met him, you fell, you got hurt. I did. He didn't come over and laugh at you. He came and helped you for the night.
Yeah, I was in the deep end of the pool after I fell off the diving board, making a spectacular scene, by the way.
Of course. Go big or go home.
Before I even broke the surface, he had his arm around my waist and he pulled me back to the deep end and made sure I was okay. And that's the thing, is he was so charming. Yeah. He was good looking. He was charming. He was a little older, which made him obviously very desirable to a 13-year-old.
Oh yeah, the older man.
Older guy, yeah. He was in high school. I wasn't, which made me miss popularity instantly.
Yep. And probably from a parent perspective, going, what does this high schooler want with you? That would be my first thought as a parent.
I think, well, when I introduced him to my parents when they came to pick us up after the little teen all night thing, they were happy that somebody was there to take care of me, to help me out. Because first thing I did is like, yeah, I hit the back of my head. And I'm like, oh, good, concussion. Crap.
Yeah.
And they're sports parents. So that was their first thought.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I played sports so much and I'm clumsy that they're like, oh, good, concussion. So we need to stop at the hospital on the way home. I'm like, no, he stayed with me all night. And, we ate pizza at like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was so cool. And they're like, oh, and like my dad shook his hand and said, thanks for taking care of her. And that's how it started. He was great right at first. But then it was like, well, why aren't you calling me more? Why aren't you calling me like when you get home from school every day? I'm like, well, I guess I can do that. And then it was, well, you didn't call me that fast enough. What were you talking to other people? Do you not care about me? No, of course I care about you. I'll call you first, and I'll only talk to them if I have time. And that's like you said, it was a slow isolation. The only reason he couldn't isolate me completely is we went to different schools.
Okay, well that's good, really, for you.
I was around my friends during the day, and then I would talk to him all night.
Yeah.
And then weekends I would go hang out with him and his friends. But then eventually he would get jealous, and he didn't want me around my friends or around anybody that he didn't know and approve of, which of course meant anyone that he didn't have complete control over.
Yeah.
And even now, years later, I'm friends with some of his old friends on Facebook, and they've reached out and gone, I kind of feel like some bad stuff was going on and I should have said something. I'm like, you were 15 too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it would have been great if somebody stood up to him, but I wouldn't have expected his friends to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
For one thing, I'm not sure that they knew what was wrong at the time. It's kind of one of those things, looking back, we can all go, oh, that was kind of messed up. We should have said something. But none of us knew at the time.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because I heard it, one of the people that I'm in this business group with, we were at this event, and the speaker person asked, does anybody make a bad decision? And so most of us put our hands up. We're like, yeah, I made a bad decision. Yeah. And this person, she goes, she didn't put her hand up. The guy goes, why didn't you put your hand up? I don't think I've ever made a bad decision intentionally. I made the best decision I thought at the time with the information that I knew. Looking back on it, like you're saying, looking back on it, I can see it as a decision that probably I shouldn't have done. Yes, it's a bad decision now, looking back.
Yeah.
But at the time you make a decision, generally you're making it because of the information that you currently possess to the best of what you're doing. And that's what you were doing. You were 13 years old. You really didn't have the life experience to know if this is right or wrong. He was very charming at the beginning. So you were just making the best decisions that you could at the time. Same with his friends not standing up to them. At the time.
He was popular. They were mostly popular, but a lot of it had to do with him.
Yeah.
And, he was the guy that all the girls wanted. So why wouldn't they want to emulate him? And why would they question him? And, obviously I wasn't going anywhere, so things couldn't be that bad, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the girls probably envied you if they all wanted him, but you had him.
Well, it turns out later most of us had him.
I was actually kind of thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
No, it became pretty obvious actually right towards the end. Once I was fully under his control, I had no friends of my own left because he was demanding all of my time. We both had open campuses at school. So once he could drive, he would come to my high school every day at lunch.
Oh, wow.
And, he would show off being the charming guy that all the girls wanted. He would bask in their attention and glory, and then he would go back to his own school.
Yeah.
With the warning to make sure that I talked to nobody.
Yeah.
No guys could talk.
So
and even when I was on the swim team and we had our managers, they couldn't talk to me.
Oh, well, that would make it kind of difficult.
We have, the swim teams have managers from the other team. So the boys from boys swim team will be managers for the girls swim team and vice versa.
Oh,
even our managers weren't allowed to talk to me.
Wow.
And then I was one of the managers for the boys team. So basically I wasn't allowed to do anything or even look at the guys. He would come to the guys swim meets
to make sure that you weren't talking to them,
interacting with the guys. at one point he was on the swim team, so it was nice because he usually had meets the same time.
Okay.
But when our schools were crosstown rivals, so when we swam against each other, I couldn't talk to his team. I couldn't talk to my team. I couldn't even cheer for my team. I had to like go in the back and hand out bananas and orange slices and just
wow, so much fun.
Yeah, yay.
So what finally made you figure, well, like you said, you couldn't hide the bruises anymore, but I feel like there's more to it than that. Because it's such a complex situation. So what finally made you go, we are breaking up?
The knife.
Yeah.
It was my birthday. Well, it was our birthday. His birthday's the day before mine.
Oh, that'd be sweet if he wasn't an asshole.
So we would have a celebration from like 6 p.m. on his birthday to like 6 a.m. on mine. So we could celebrate the birthdays all together. And we did it.
That's so neat. Again, if he wasn't an asshole.
If it wasn't what it was, then it was cute.
Yeah.
And one of his friends felt bad for me. We were at this like little get together, and his friend came over to ask how I was doing, and because I wasn't talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, but I couldn't walk away from him either because that would be rude. Well, then my ex got jealous and got upset, and we were at his friend's house, which is a couple blocks away from his parents' house, my ex's parents' house.
Okay.
And he grabbed me and he's like, "You need your sweater," which was, of course, at his parents' house. Mm-hmm. He's like, and as soon as we got outside, he called me a slut and he told me that I was cheating on him. I'm like, "You've been dancing with 4 other girls all night. You're not even talking to me."
Yeah.
So by that point, obviously, I knew he was cheating on me.
Yeah.
I had known for some time. We got back to his parents and I went down to grab my sweater, which was in the basement in his room. When I came back out, he was sitting on the stairs with a 6-inch switchblade knife and telling me how awful I was and how he deserved better and nobody deserved to have to put up with me. And I told him, whatever, I didn't care anymore. If he didn't want me, then fine, we'd be done, which is the first time I ever stood up to him. And
well, yay, although very kind of dangerous time.
Yeah, well, again, you don't think through.
No, your emotions were probably going completely crazy.
Yeah, when you're 16, you just go, all right, well, let's see how this works out.
Yeah. Yep.
So I told him, fine, if that's how you feel, we're done. And I tried to walk past him and he grabbed me by my arm and he slammed me against the wall and started screaming at me and insulting me again. And when I pushed him away, he hit me so hard that he actually fractured the side of my jaw.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't remember if I pushed him or I kicked him. I did something to try to get him away from me. And again, I tried to walk away and he twisted my arm and I thankfully did not have a fracture. I was close to having a spiral fracture in my arm.
Oh my goodness.
And tried to go up the stairs. He grabbed my leg and yanked me back down, which I'm sure cracked ribs, bruised something. Mm-hmm. And then it couldn't have been longer than a minute or two, but the knife came back out and I've got some scars and I kicked and I punched and I shoved and I did everything I could to get away. And
so
the only
he
time
actually used it? No. Shit. I was hoping it was, I was hoping it never happened at all, but I was hoping that it was just like for show.
I think originally it was a scare tactic. And when I decided, honestly, I kind of hoped he would use it because at that point I was so done that if he killed me, at least I'd be done. I'd be free.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he actually did that I realized, okay, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I just want to be free. I don't want to die.
Yeah. I just want to be away from you and this whole situation.
I remember trying to kick him right in the chest and missing entirely because he had moved. I kicked his wrist that was holding the knife. And he dropped the knife and it went flying across the room.
Oh, good.
He let go of me to go get the knife. Yeah. And I ran up the stairs and the back door was right at the top of the stairs. So I got outside. Once I got outside, I just ran for the road and I would manage to get away. And he went back to the party. Yeah. The people sitting on a couch drinking beer and watching TV.
Yeah.
High school party.
Yeah.
And he told everybody that we got mugged and that the guys that beat us up took me. And his friends were his friends, and they believed him.
Yeah.
And so when I later accused him, which was a long while later, actually, but they backed him up.
They weren't even there.
They weren't there, but they all said that they saw it. Because he described it so much that, and said, guys, you got to help me out. You got to help me out. What if something happens to her? I was responsible for her.
Yeah.
They backed him up.
And that happens a lot in these kinds of cases, right? The friends are there for their buddy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, down the road, they might look back and go, oh, shit, I shouldn't have done that.
And most of those friends I am not in contact with anymore. And not just because of that, just because they weren't the close friends. They weren't the ones that I really knew. Most of the ones I knew well weren't even there that night.
Oh, okay.
I think the hardest thing was later on, I did see him not too long, you know, after I had been checked out and I wasn't going to die from my injuries or anything.
Yeah.
I was so far gone. I was so far under the spell and everything that when I saw him, I apologized.
And that just goes to show how deep this kind of abuse goes.
Yeah, it was, and that's, I mean, it's been 22 years. And I now use that frustration. I use that anger and that pain and that, I guess, mild self-loathing for having been in that situation and not having recognized it, even though at 13, you're not going to. Mm-hmm. I've forgiven myself, but I try to use that because I remember how alone I felt, even when I wasn't, even when I still had friends, I still had my family.
Yeah.
But that, you know, they make you feel embarrassed. You can't tell anybody what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you're either going to be a disappointment. Like, he had me convinced if I told my parents what was going on, not only would they side with him, they'd be disappointed in me.
Yeah.
And my friends would laugh at me. And so I never told anybody anything. And that's obviously exactly what they want.
Exactly. They can't stay in control if you tell someone.
And then I remember being at those swim meets, being surrounded by people and feeling unbelievably alone. And that's why I do the things that I do now. And that's why I have the whole book series about PTSD, is because I want people who feel that way, that feel alone, that feel like no one understands. I may not have gone through your exact trauma, but I understand how you feel. I understand that isolation, that pain, that desperation.
Yeah.
And if you just need to talk, or you just need to vent, or you just need to scream, I get it.
Yeah.
I have a huge stuffed teddy bear that my dad gave me when I was like 9 or 10. And that poor thing has been beaten up so many times because I just have that moment and I cry and I scream and I throw it across the room. I beat it up.
That's good though. That is a good release of all that energy.
Well, I don't play hockey anymore. I can't go knock somebody down on the ice.
So. Try some kickboxing.
You know, I tried kickboxing. It turns out I'm better with cycling. I can just turn the resistance up and just go until I'm sweating so bad I can't even see straight anymore.
All right, that works.
You know, or just get on a bike and ride until I'm so tired I have to call for a ride.
I love that. That's awesome.
But it's been a good, you know, and it's been a learning experience to find the things that work. But I want other people that feel that alone, that isolation and desperation. If you haven't found your thing yet and you just need to like look at somebody and scream, I'm right here. I get it. I won't take it personally.
All right. Well, in that case, actually, I'm in a pretty good mood today. Might need to call you and scream at you tomorrow, though.
I'm here.
So what skills have you learned to deal with all of this? Because clearly you've come a long way.
I have. I love to talk, obviously. And so even though I was scared for a long time, if I didn't look, act, think, behave perfect, then I wasn't good enough. And that's something that I still deal with. I still have that anxiety over it.
Yeah.
because of that, I throw myself into situations where I have to be in front of people. And if I mess up, you're going to see it. So
be it.
Like being a casino dealer, I'm in front of people all the time.
That's true.
I'm talking to complete strangers all the time. My entire job is being pretty much on a stage talking to people I don't know.
Yeah.
And going, well, let's see how this works out every day.
Yeah.
So that's been good for rebuilding that confidence and being able to laugh at myself. The first time I got to laugh at myself was like the best.
Yeah. I know I talked to somebody before about how there's laughing at yourself because like you do something silly, which we all should be able to do.
Right.
And then there's laughing at yourself because you're being mean to yourself.
Yeah, there's definitely
right.
That.
There is a difference, but if we can laugh at ourselves, like I do crazy weird stuff all the time. Like I'm always laughing at myself, but it's only because I'm weird. I'm a very animated personality.
Right. Well, like yesterday, talking to the other dealers as we were going back from break, and I walked into the wall. I turned around, and took a bow.
Yep.
And everybody went, and we all laughed, and we went back to the game. And that's
it's a nice, funny situation. If you ruminate on it and you just keep thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that in front of people now, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
And you're just,
I have those days, everybody has those days. And for that, thankfully, I have a little ring that I wear on my thumb. It spins and I can play with it. And
ooh, I need one of those.
Little $10 anxiety ring that I got. And it used to be all black in the middle, and I've played with it so much that it's currently all silver.
I want one. But I take off my wedding rings all the time, or I'll turn them around on my finger. So like one that is designed to spin.
Yeah, this one actually has a spinner on the side of it. So I love it. But I forgot it yesterday, and it was weird because it wasn't a bad day.
Yeah.
My hockey team lost and we're out of the playoffs now. So that was sad in general. But other than that, it wasn't a stressful day. I worked with a crew that I really like. And
good.
Years were, for the most part, really, really nice. And we had a good time, but I didn't have my ring. And just not having it gave me anxiety.
Wow.
I texted my boyfriend at work. I was like, I had a beautiful day and I forgot to take all my vitamins and supplements after my bike ride this morning. And I forgot my anxiety ring, and that's giving me anxiety. And he's like, okay, then. Well, we'll just take it easy. Don't worry, the hockey game's on soon. You can focus on that.
Yeah. That is so funny.
Yeah, just
can't stop yawning. I'm sorry.
You're good. I've been caffeine free since March. I yawn constantly.
Yeah, I don't drink pretty much any caffeine for the most part. Once I yawn once, I can't stop. It just keeps going, going. And then I feel like I'm being rude because I'm like, I'm not bored. I'm actually enjoying our conversation, but I just can't stop yawning. I cannot get enough oxygen into my body.
I do that at work sometimes where we have this huge LED light wall behind us.
Oh,
it gives off all this heat. So you'll be sitting down on these nice soft cushions and you're just leaning and it's this monotonous thing of moving just back and forth.
Yeah.
Got the heat, and you're just sitting there
like. Yep.
And the other main therapy is
oh my goodness. Okay, so everyone who is listening and not watching this episode right now, it is an adorable little kitty cat, black and white, long fur, cute as little thing.
I have 3 of them. This is the most loving and snuggly.
Obviously. I'm a cat person myself. I have 4 of them and I just love them so much.
I had 4. I lost one during the big COVID shutdown last year. He was 17.
Oh, okay.
The now 18-year-old litter mate is wandering around here whining about something. So she's here. She just isn't a big snuggler. She just likes to be petted on her own terms. But Bree here is definitely a cuddler. She's been laying next to me this entire time.
Yeah, but I'm in my basement and the door is shut because I don't want the cats all up in here scratching stuff. But if the door is open and they were down here, they'd be like all right on top of me, especially the one. So my one cat is named Mr. Fridge. And it's because he was found at a hoarder's house hiding in a fridge. when the Humane Society found him. And he is like the snuggliest thing. He has to be right on top of you all the time. It's very cute, but can also be really frustrating when you're actually trying to get stuff done.
The one that we lost last year, his name was Smokey, and he loved to lay, like stretch out. If you were sitting on a recliner or on a couch, he would lay on your legs and just stretch.
Yeah. Oh, and so I have one named Smokey right now.
And I always put my laptop actually on my lap. That is I don't put it on a desk or a table like it is right now unless I'm doing something like this.
Yeah.
So then I would put it on my lap and he'd get mad at me because that was his spot.
Oh my God.
So he would come and he'd like peer up over the back of the computer and just stare at you. And if that didn't work, he would actually take his paw and try to close the computer so that you would put it away.
I love it. That is so cute.
And eventually you'd have to like just put him to the side of you, be like, I'll pet you. Just gotta let the computer stay. I'm trying to finish a book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious.
You'd write like one paragraph, pet the cat, or another paragraph, pet the cat. That's
so funny. Yeah, my one cat died a couple of years ago, Diamond, and she was like 18, 19 too. And my husband had this thing. He would be playing video games and she would come, she'd be right there. So he likes playing sports video games like football, baseball. So he'd play one of the rounds or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to call it. One of the turns, and then pet, pet, pet. Okay, turn, pet, pet, pet. And she knew, after he did his thing, pet, pet, pet.
We have one of those like camping chairs that has the arms on it and the little cup holder.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend will sit and he'll play like usually hockey or sometimes like a racing game or something like that. And he'll sit in that chair because that way he can kind of lean back. He'll have his drink with him. But it is the perfect size on that arm to be like a cat hammock.
I love it.
And my orange and white one, the 18-year-old now, will just come and plant herself in this little cat hammock and just wait.
Oh, that's adorable.
Now you've now lost an arm of the chair, so at some point you're going to have to pay attention to me.
It's true.
And she'll just sit there.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it. So getting back on track, I could talk about kitty cats all day long. So back on track. What is something that you would tell somebody who is struggling in a potentially, maybe they're unaware, abusive situation?
Listen to your instincts. Don't excuse it. Don't justify something. If it feels wrong, you're probably right. Listen to that gut instinct inside, because that's the thing that's trying to warn you if something's not okay. And that's what I wish I would have done.
I am so glad though that you're doing so much better. We didn't really talk about whether or not you went to therapy, so I'll throw that question out there.
Not right away. It took a long time just to stop blaming myself for it, unfortunately. And I'm very, very fortunate. I was able to do something a lot of people can't do. And that's turn to those friends and family that I had been isolated from. It took a long, long time. What I did first is I buried everything. I stuck it down in a bottle inside me, locked it away, threw the key away, threw the safe in the river, just buried it.
Pretty darn deep.
About 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, I was watching a documentary about PTSD, and it was about 3 hours long. And at the end, it basically came out and said, if you weren't in the military, you can't have it. And I went, oh, well, that's crap.
Yeah.
I agree entirely. And I started just retaliating by writing a book called Sharing Strength. And it was about a bunch of people in a support group for PTSD, but they all got there through different aspects. There were soldiers, there was a domestic abuse survivor, there was somebody who dealt with sexual assault and bullying, there was somebody with survivor's guilt, all these different aspects of PTSD, and then they all had their own side effects. Somebody fell into like drinking and pills, other people had the self-loathing, just different aspects of it, just because I was so irritated by that documentary, which was clearly wrong. Mm-hmm. And I wish I remembered the name of it, because I would love to call it out right now, but I don't.
Well, if you do, then, we can always call it out later.
I was so mad at it. I just turned the TV off and I just instantly started writing. But then I got connected with other people online with PTSD and became good friends with a girl who had also gone through an abusive relationship. And we kind of shared our story. She goes, what would you think of actually like writing our stories, or, you know, like a fictionalized version of our stories to help get the word out, to help spread the word? Because it is such a taboo subject.
Yeah.
And I was like, how about I write mine and I'll just send it to you and then we'll talk about it. But as the time went on and we started talking about it more and more, we actually created a full event. We did an online event, and then we did a dual book launch.
Cool.
Right here in Las Vegas. My work donated a ballroom at the casino I work at.
Yeah.
And we did a big fundraiser for a local shelter here.
That is so cool.
And then after that, we started, the people who had already beta read the original book, Strength, I started asking, they're like, well, are you going to do the novellas in the backgrounds of all the other characters? And I'm like, I wasn't gonna, because obviously the domestic abuse survivor in the book is based on my story.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wasn't going to, but I mean, I guess I could. And I'm glad I have, because it gave me so much more perspective now that I'm working on the rewrite of Sharing Strength, because that's the last one coming out in September.
Okay.
And there's new characters I didn't even know existed. And there's so much more to the characters to really make them so much more human, that I was able to kind of glean from writing those first 4. So I'm glad I did it, but it was difficult. And I don't think my full story came out, and I didn't actually go into therapy officially until I wrote my story and had a full breakdown, because I had to face it, and I had to relive it, and I had to deal with all of that stuff. And all of a sudden I was having nightmares every night and flashbacks, and I was waking up screaming, and my boyfriend's like, all right, we need to do something about this. Even if it's getting you like a pill to calm you down. And that's when I ultimately got into therapy officially. I'd seen people off and on, you know, little bits here and there throughout the years, but nothing until then.
That's good though, that you finally came to realize. And that's really how I kind of started too, is, I mean, I didn't have the domestic abuse like you did, but the writing part is what I mean. Like, I was just in a really dark place, so I started writing, and through writing I was like, yeah, this is very therapeutic.
It is. And you can, the nice thing is, yes, your characters, any writer knows, your characters really dictate the story, and if you try to modify it, they're like, no, we're just going to weave our way back where we wanted to go anyway. But
they have a life of their own.
But at the same time, I got to take the story of what happened to me, and I got to take the ending and make it the way it should have been.
Yes, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I got to give myself in the book the justice that I wish I would have had in real life, because real life is not as neat and clean as a book.
Yeah.
But you gloss over that bad stuff sometimes in the book and just kind of focus on the parts you really want to emphasize. And it was nice to be able to do that, even if only in fiction.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is a perfect segue to, where can people find your books?
Both on Amazon and on my website, writingforces.com. I do have Fish, Survivor, Crash, and Combat, which are the first 4 in that series. I also have my debut suspense novel up there, of course, and the one I jokingly call my therapy book, the Just Deal With It, which is Vegas from our point of view, the dealer's point of view.
Oh.
It's filled with all those goofy stories that, you know, we all looked at each other like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
That person? What did they just say? All those things that just make us laugh all day, every day.
Yeah.
All the weird terms that people will hear a dealer say at the table when they're talking to their floor, their pit boss, or other dealers, and you see the players look at each other like, what are they talking about? Well, I gave a whole full breakdown of a bunch of stuff. Instead of introduction, it's called orientation. And
oh, nice. Kind of cool.
It's all just different fun aspects and nods to my job, because as weird as my job is, as unorthodox as it has been a lifesaver for me to have something that's so much fun, that's so reviving sometimes when I'm having one of those rough days, or I'm feeling particularly self-conscious and insecure. Yeah. I go out there and I make a player laugh, or they go, man, I can't wait to come back and see you. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay again.
Yeah. It's
So
funny that you say that your job's unorthodox, because where I live, there's 2 casinos like within driving distance. So it's not unorthodox for me to be like, oh yeah, that guy works at the casino, that guy's a dealer, whatever.
I remember when I first got the job, even though there's casinos in all but 2 of the 50 states.
Yeah.
And Michigan has plenty of casinos, but it's still, I got super excited. I got my gaming license. I, passed all my drug test, of course, because I think a glass of wine's excessive. So there was nothing to stop me from that. But I finally got everything, and I got my job, and I went on Facebook, and I was like, woohoo, I finally got my job. I'm going to be a dealer. And all my friends in Michigan are like, I wouldn't broadcast that if I were you. I'm like, casino dealer, not drug dealer.
Oh, that's
because where I live now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one of those things where it instantly jumped to everybody's mind. I'm like, I'm a dealer, and they're like, ooh, I wouldn't talk about that.
That's hilarious. And where can people follow you?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Pretty much everything is under author Renee Jean or just Renee Jean. I do have a second page on Facebook right now. It's called Ride 22 on 66. The launch of Sharing Strength will be the official kickoff for another fundraiser in the PTSD realm. I'm riding Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica on my bicycle. I'm riding it in 22 days in honor of the 22 veterans a day who commit suicide because of PTSD. And I'm raising money and awareness for 5 organizations, one tied to each of my books. That I will be splitting the total among those 5 organizations in order to help them out at the end of my ride. So that'll be next September. I step off on the ride. And so that's on my website as well.
That is so awesome. I love that. And those links will be down in the description below so that you can follow Renee very easily, get a hold of her books, and keep up to date with these awesome fundraisers that you are a part of. So thank you, Renee, so much for being on the show.
Yeah, it's been a blast. It's been great to get to know you, even if you are not a hockey fan.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, not sorry.
That's all right. I'll balance it out for you.
It's perfect.
Bye.
I know the episode was a little bit longer than normal, but I couldn't stop asking stuff. I loved her story, and there's still more things that I was like, oh, I want to ask this, and I want to ask this. So I don't know. I might have to follow up and do a part 2 maybe one day. I don't know. We'll see. We do have a merch store, of course. 10% of the proceeds go back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. So head on over there, check it out, support the channel. The best way to support the channel, though, is, of course, to hit that like and subscribe button. Share it out to all of your friends. Let's get the message out there for everybody. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.